is the one organizational part of the meeting that we have to do at the very beginning of this regular meeting. So I'll call the meeting to order, and we'll do Pledge of Allegiance first. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So this evening we nominate and elect a chair and a vice chair. So we'll start with, I'll open it up for nominations for board chair.
I'd like to nominate Lou Enzel as our board chair.
All right, so we have a motion and a second for Lou. Any other nominations for board chair? Okay. All right, so we'll close the nominations and take a vote. All those in favor? All right, congratulations, Lou, and I'll turn the meeting over to you.
All right. Thank you. Let's go right to 4.0 and nominations for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Lorna Ryan for vice chair.
Okay. And second by Jennifer. All right. Any other nominations? Okay. All those in favor? Great. Congratulations, Lorna. I just wanted to say thank you all very much. Thanks for your confidence. Look forward to working with everyone as the chair. And congratulations, Lorna, and welcome back, Megan. Really happy to have you back. I look forward to working with everyone on the board, and Patrick and Katie and all the administration and staff. You're all doing a great job, and look forward to this rest of this calendar year going forward. I'll do my best to keep meetings moving and addressing all the issues we need to, and we'll do that by starting right now with approval of minutes. There's I think it's a set of 3 meetings. And if it's okay, we can take them all at once. Take a minute to look at them if you haven't already, and let me know if there are any questions. Yeah, Lorna?
I'm sorry, I was flipping pages. Did you say there's 3 meetings?
Well, is it 2 or is it 3?
December 20th is what I have.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry. I was reading that something else on there. Sorry about that. It's for the 20th. Yep. No, I was reading it incorrectly.
I did.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I did have just some other thoughts too on the minutes, but I'll let other people go first unless they have something.
No, go ahead.
So I know the minutes don't get recorded verbatim, but I just was wondering what you all thought under the discussion of mass during athletics. There was discussion back and forth between Dr. Hanna and Mr. Priest. There was a fair amount of discussion on the possibility or option of foregoing mass in exchange for uniform pool testing. And I don't know if it's just worth documenting it somehow, just to get that we also had that discussion. I know in the end that's not how the vote turned out, but if we could just add that there was a fair amount of discussion on that. And then I know under the presentation, and Jonah, you can clarify this, but under the presentation for Brightspace, I remember Jonah having a question about grading, and I don't want to speak for you, Jonah, but I don't know if you think that should be in there.
Well, I had posed a question about connectivity between Brightspace and Infinite Campus in terms of assignment synchronization and where you can sort of view individual assignments versus summations of your grade. I don't think it's a big deal if it's left out of the notes, but if it's better to have it documented, that works.
I wasn't sure either, but I remember you had a good question about that, so thought I'd throw it out there as an option to have it included.
Okay, so for the pool testing, where would you want that? What would you want?
I was just wondering
included?
if maybe before that topic concludes on page 6, at the top of page 6, maybe before the last paragraph on 5, where it says Dr. Hannah reported that the CDC has done many studies, maybe just an inclusion that there was a fair amount of discussion on universal pool testing for all athletes in exchange of masking. And that would be my only suggestion.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything to say on that? Does anyone want to give a motion? Yep. Okay. Jennifer, you want a second? Motion by Bill, seconded by Jen. All those in favor? All right. We are done with minutes. Any adjustments, 7.0, any adjustments to the agenda? No. And 8.0 is public session. I don't see anyone here for public session. So we will continue to move forward. Committee reports, 9.1. Katie?
So just a few quick updates right now. I just want you all to know that our calendar is being worked on for next year already. And I meet with the SEA tomorrow to review my proposed draft. And then the first week in February, which is already next week, I'm meeting with all of our regional sending schools as well to review it. Just a reminder that we can't have more than 5 dissimilar days from our sending schools for Bath Tech. So I hope to have something for you either for maybe the February meeting. And if not, then if there are some discrepancies, at least the March one. So that's upcoming. I also just wanted to update you from our last conversation about Bright Space. One component that both Dean and myself neglected to mention is that we will be surveying staff, families, and students again right around March 1st, as that's kind of the year point from where we did a pulse check last time. And so we'll make sure that we have that information to share back out with the board so we can continue our conversation on that. Did you want to talk about internships real quick? You wanted me to remind you of that?
Just real quick, I think I put it in my report to you, just that at the high school, we're working with the Morse side as well as the Bath Tech side to try to have an internship program ready to be up and running for next fall. And it's been some exciting conversations with the staff that are involved and with the administrators that are involved. So we're looking at having students be able to just do an exploratory where they would, like for example, they might go down and see an elementary teacher, or they might go to Read and Read, or they might go to BIW, but it's more for the experience to see if it's interesting for them. And then they would have to do so many hours, and then they would have to do a kind of a culminating learning project if they were to receive credit. Then the other piece is going to be more of just a work study where we're going to develop relationships. We already have quite a few of those with the Bath Tech side, but where students would be able to get paid to work, and possibly on the Bath Tech side, it would be to meet industry standards. It would be part of their program. For the More side, it is for, again, to learn skills, learn a job, to gain experience, something that they might want to do in college, but just something they might want to explore as well. And then also from a bigger ticket thing, some ideas we've talked about is finding a company that's large enough that would allow a larger group of students to possibly come, go visit for a couple days and just learn every aspect of the different positions that are in that job so that they can maybe just start to understand the different components. So maybe in the summertime, that's, they might want to try one of those positions. So again, we're hopeful that there's going to be some federal money come down to the state of Maine for a coordinator for the academic side for Morse. And then we're working with Jobs for Maine's graduates, having those conversations about some possible funding opportunities for the Bath Tech side as well. So, again, our goal is just to try to make this a very applicable and rigorous, and just for our students, and also to develop some more relationships, with our community and with our businesses. Jen?
Is it involved at all? I think there's a national program called ACE, ACE. Have you heard about that program?
I have.
Brunswick has
Yeah.
had that for a while. Is it going to be like that kind of program, or I think that program is more geared towards STEM, but I don't know if that's exclusive or not.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've looked into it a little bit, but this one would not be like geared specifically towards that. This one, I think, we're trying to be fairly open about different opportunities. And even if we had a student that was already working quite a bit and had an ambition to move up into that company, how could we support that student, as well? And again, we're also talking about the possibility, again, this has not been worked out, but as far as credit, as well as the employability skills course, whether that could be in person, whether it could be online. Again, it's a lot of what Maria Morris does with Jobs for Maine's graduates curriculum now. And our coordinator could also do a lot of that at the work site and individually with students too. But so again, we're trying to keep this manageable and make it work for our students and the businesses.
And then one final update is we have chosen for K-8 to be working again with Maine Math and Science Alliance for next year. Previously, we've been working with them on our science curriculum, and moving forward, starting next year, we'll be reviewing math practices, best teaching math practices, doing some professional development K-8, and also reviewing our current textbooks to see if they align with current best practices. So that's all upcoming. We're just locking down the dates with the coordinator there. And that's all I have for my curriculum updates.
Great. Thank you very much, Katie, and thank you, Patrick. Some exciting news. Any questions from anybody? Yeah, Natalie?
I had a question about the internship. Would the internships be just regional professions, or would they be statewide?
As far as location, you mean, or is that what you're asking,
Yeah.
Natalie?
Like if someone wanted to work, would it just be jobs in the Bath community, like BIW and small businesses, or would it be more statewide jobs that might extend to farther areas in the state? Like how far would the circle of...
Yeah, we haven't really gotten into that. Our meeting next week is more to talk about job placement opportunities. But I think, for me personally, I was thinking it doesn't have to necessarily be within the towns of RSU1, but kind of in our local area, just for the purpose of transportation, to be able to get places. But again, if there were remote possibilities or other opportunities, that might be possible as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jennifer.
Patrick, are you at the point where you have formed a specific committee, and if so, does that have student representation on it?
It doesn't yet. We've talked about that with one group, but we have staff, and we have staff on the committee right now, and we do have students that do work, and we have our advisory committees on the Bath Tech side as well. So we will be involving just to get some of their input as well.
Okay, any other questions? Great, thank you very much for the update. Facilities Committee.
Yes, we met last week. I'll just give you an update, mostly on the federal projects that we're in process of. And Jamie, if I miss anything, I know Jamie kind of made an impromptu kind of guest appearance to the Facilities Committee, which was great. So the bottle filling stations have now been installed in all of our schools. I think there's one maybe left at Bath Middle School, but everywhere else they are there. And I think the staff and the students have really appreciated it. And there's been a lot of use so far because you can check the usage. The units, the air handling units for the AC at Woolwich, we hope to receive the units by March and be able to do the rooftop condensers during the April break. And then we may need to complete the work in June because the project cannot, it would not be done while school's in session, except for the rooftop, because of having to shut down air handlers and other disruptions to our staff. So the Woolwich project, as well as the boilers at Dyke Newell, both have been impacted by, the world in which we live right now, as far as delays on equipment and supplies. That's what's held these projects up. So the boilers at Dyke Newell, the parts and equipment have been ordered as well, and we hope to start the work in April as well. Abatement will be involved in that project, but think we can start to finish, hopefully, from April break until June with that project, because that project can be done, according to Dave, while school is in session. And then the Phippsburg roof, we're waiting on the engineering report, and then we plan to go out to bid in February. But again, Dave's very concerned about materials, roofing materials, coming in a timely fashion, and we hope that this project can be completed by the end of the summer. So, and then Dave reviewed some potential projects for FY23. He's met with all the principals and just as a first glance, and he'll share that with the full board, at our kind of retreat meeting. And then, we'll end up paring that list down eventually. But I won't bore you with that tonight. But you'll hear about that in February and March, about the projects that he sees needed at each school.
Okay, great. Any questions, Jen?
Sorry, I'm question queen tonight. So Patrick, so for Woolwich, if we can't finish the project during the school year, that's when it starts to get really hot again. I think all the classrooms had air conditioner units put in previously when it was really hot.
Yeah, not all, but we did. If we can get the rooftop done, and I'll double check this with Dave, but if we can get the rooftop done, and the priority would be the third floor in April, then we could move down the air conditioning units that we purchased. We only purchased enough for the third floor because that's the priority. We could move those down to the second floor. If we can't accomplish that third floor for whatever reason, delays or whatever, then our plan right now would be to put those, AC as a stopgap in the third floor to make that possible. So it's unfortunate the timing, hasn't worked for us on this one, but.
As long as there's a backup plan,
Yeah.
so that we're not ending up closing the.
Right.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions on facilities? All right, great. Thank you, Patrick. Jonah and Natalie, you want to give us a student report?
Yeah, so I know over the past few weeks, there have been over 100 students at Morse with COVID. And as I mentioned to Mr. Varney in a meeting earlier, it may be helpful to review with kids what the policies for late work are, as a lot of people have come back very overwhelmed and struggling to make up what they've missed. The high school had midterms last week, and many people are happy and relieved to have finished both midterms and a challenging first semester while preparing and looking forward to a fresh start this semester. Many students have been very appreciative and taking full advantage of the increased support from student services and increased counseling options. Morse girls swimming is still undefeated after having beaten Cape, Brunswick, and Mount Ararat among some other teams this year, and the boys have only lost to Cape. Morse cheer just did very well at their KVAC meet. Indoor track, both basketball teams and the wrestling team also competed this weekend. Earlier this month, Morse successfully hosted Poetry Out Loud and selected Zoe Brush as our representative for the next level of the competition, and the student-written one-acts are underway. And then SCLC and NHS both successfully raised money and shopped for an adoptive family over the holidays. And we, the Morse Women's Empowerment Club, presented to the Maine Judiciary Committee in support of LD 344, a Maine state constitutional amendment to prohibit all sex-based discrimination, even having one of their statements quoted in the Portland Press Herald. We in Civil Rights are currently working with the librarians to bring a representative from Maine Speaks and the Maine Humanities Council to the community sometime this spring. And the library is continuing their discussion project, What If the World Warmed and the Oceans Rose, which is open to all community members. If anyone's interested, they can find out more at the library website.
Oh, fantastic.
So from a senior perspective, having finished midterms, I hope I speak for, pretty much the rest of the class. It kind of feels like a final boss in a lot of ways that, we just, now that, the only thing left to do is put, final touches on those college plans. And about basketball, I'm heavily involved with that program, as you guys probably know. And tomorrow we're playing against Mount Ararat, and that's going to be the first game where we test the voucher system. So I don't know if anybody on the board is planning on attending, but I'll be there. So if you guys have any questions about how that might go by next board meeting, I'll definitely have input on that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Thank you both for some great detail. Appreciate it. That's good stuff. All right. Superintendent's report.
Just a couple items. Sarah Williams, who's a third grade teacher for us at Phippsburg, I think I told you this last year, she agreed to work with Maine Math and Science, and it's a place-based learning for elementary science. And so she has the teachers have the capability to basically work with teachers, researchers, scientists, and make their units specific more to where we are in Maine. And it's been a very successful program. And due to Sarah's impressive work on this project, she's been asked to be on the teacher steering committee, a mentor teacher for this program, and also she'll be in the teacher spotlight for the January issue of Maine Math and Science Alliance. So she's really done a nice job and represented RSU1, and her kids have really benefited. I've been down in her science class a couple times, and students are very excited about what's going on there. Athletics were mentioned a little bit. I'll just give you, obviously this season has presented some challenges, but at the same time, athletics, just like other co-curricular activities, bring out and give kids an opportunity for all of those benefits, the social, emotional piece, and that competition. And so just quickly, as Natalie mentioned, more swimming. Girls are undefeated and boys have only lost one contest. Boys basketball, 5th in the heel points with a 4-3 record. Girls basketball also in 5th place with a 3-4 record. Wrestling, it's a young group, but they've compiled, I think, a 9-4 record. Indoor track, they have strong numbers, and their main championship meet is coming up, so posed to finish strong. And cheerleading, same kind of thing. Their league and state championships are in February and should be very competitive in that league. Bath Tech, I think you may have seen this in Julie's report, but it's worth watching that video they created. Oh, okay. It's on our website too, I believe, as a link. But they created a new recruitment video, which obviously is very important, in the times that we live in, and use MELMAC funding. And I thought all of the instructors did a tremendous job. It's not easy. I'm not sure how many takes we had to take to get it good, but I thought I was impressed as a parent looking at that or someone interested. So kudos to the Bath Tech staff. And Skills USA, for those of you, I don't know if you know about that, but students pick, some different industry competitions. And so that's going to happen again this March for the first time in 2 years in person with some accommodations, obviously. And then lastly, I'll just mention to you that we have been able to find some additional social work, as you're aware, at Morse. And then we have been able to find additional social work, on a temporary basis. This isn't forever, but at Bath Middle School, and then Dyke Newell and Woolwich just found someone to share. And so we're still looking for a half-time position between Fisher Mitchell and Phippsburg, and we're hopeful that we might be able to find someone to fill that as well. But it's certainly filling a void that we've had, and we're filling those slots up very quickly. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Patrick? Yeah, Lorna?
Patrick, would you mind just giving a few examples of how the social work support comes in, whether it's counseling or linking within organizations in the community as far as the school social work piece?
Yeah, I mean, typically it's, it could be a referral from our current guidance counselor or from a teacher. And so the social worker will work with a family and will work with a student directly. It could be groups, small groups, especially at the elementary and middle school, not so much at the high school. And then it also could be someone connecting that family to other resources outside of school as well.
Any other questions for Patrick? Okay, thank you very much. We are on to financial report. Deb.
Hello. Am I on? I guess I am. Tonight, we're looking at the month of December. So we are 50% of the way through the school year. So out of our $38 million budget, we've spent about $17.5 million. We have 14 million encumbered for salaries for the rest of the year. So that leaves us with about $6 million balance, which obviously isn't the real deal because there are so many items in the budget that aren't encumbered, but it gives us a good idea that I think we're in a fairly good space. As far as revenues go, we've brought in almost $20 million, so it's at 51%. And I just wanted to give you an update. The tuition rates did come in, and the elementary rates increased $785, but secondary rates decreased $419. But overall, based upon our additional students that we had that are actually happening versus what was budgeted, we're at a good place with about $125,000 in the positive for tuition revenue coming in. And as far as special ed goes, we're about $90,000 to the good, which is where we wanted to be as far as covering that cost of that extra program at Morse High School. As far as federal grants go, the ESRF1 will be finished at the end of this year, and we basically have probably going to have just a little bit of money remaining there. 1.8% is what I'm projecting right now, but I am charging the medical assistance to that grant right now so that we get as much out of that as we can. ESRF 2, it shows about 317,000 remaining at the end of this year, so there'll be a little bit to help towards salaries as we move to the 22-23 school year. And the ARP is just beginning, and the majority of that will be salaries for next year, and hopefully some to extend into the following year. Finance Committee's February 3rd, and our auditor will be there to review the audit. At that point in time, we should have the audit sitting in front of us that I can pass out to you folks because they haven't arrived at my office yet. And non-labor budgets are due on Friday, so that budget process is starting. And then I'm working on getting the labor portion in, and we'll be doing a board retreat on February 3rd later in the afternoon. So that's it.
Great, thank you, Deb.
Questions?
Any questions, Jennifer?
Chat to Kathy tonight. We did get a notice that the 279 subsidy looks like it's going to
Oh,
be a
yeah.
little higher, and that's for the budget that we're planning for, right? That's going to
Right.
impact that. It doesn't
Right.
impact the current budget. It impacts
That's for
our
next
planning
year.
For next year. Okay.
Yeah. And then, once the budget's complete, or as we work through that process, then you'll be able to see by community. But right now, it's premature to say, the impact. But yeah, so it came in about 105,000 more.
Okay.
So,
I looked
it's
online.
good.
I couldn't see where it was breaking down, but I was also just using
Yeah,
mobile
and then we have to
device.
go through the formula, the cost sharing formula ourselves.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay,
so-
thank you.
It's up. That's good.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Deb. So fundraising requests, Patrick?
It's just an FYI, if anybody has any questions, we try to give this to you twice a year. And mostly it's because, I know it's COVID, but we don't want, in a typical year, we just don't want our district, and we try to keep an eye on this, but we don't want our district to be overdoing it in the community and, asking too much. And so it's more of an FYI. And if you have questions, if I can't answer something tonight, what it means, I can get back to you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yeah, Lorna?
I'm just curious on the fundraiser requests. Do the schools provide these to us? Because I don't see Woolwich on here. To know if that was just an oversight or if Woolwich, oh, sorry, or if Woolwich is not doing anything right now.
Let me check with Vita on that one.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Great, thanks. We can move on to 12.0 old business. Update 12.1A, update on health and safety protocols.
Yeah, we'll provide you with an update. I'll go first, just give you some figures and percentages, and some of these we just got today, so I apologize for not getting to you sooner. And then I'll turn it over to Katie. We'll just kind of give an update on SOP and see if there's any questions. And then Nate is on the line because at the last meeting we talked about, I know a month has gone by now, but we talked about having Nate circle back with you regarding just how it was going in general. And, we've already talked a little bit, Jonah mentioned about limiting capacity at a couple events, but also Nate can just give you a quick overview. So just, I think positive news is, when we stopped sending letters about positive cases, and we've put those on our website so that people can access how many cases at each school and put that in comparison with the population of each school. And week ending, January 7th, we had 86 cases, positive cases. And then the next week ending 1/14, we had 127, which was concerning. And then this past Friday, we went back down to 92. So again, we're hopeful that that trend will continue or even continue to decline. So that's information for you. I tried to, again, this may not be 100% accurate. It's coming from families that, are giving us their vaccination cards through Infinite Campus. And so I'll just remind you of the older student percentages and then give you the 5 through 11-year-olds percentages that we have. And again, take it with a grain of salt, but Bath Middle School, 57% roughly, Bath Tech, 70%, Dyke Newell is 15%, Fisher Mitchell is 15%, Morris is 68, almost 69%, Phippsburg is 20%, and then Woolwich Middle School is 56%. And then so, for the 5 to 11-year-olds, at Bath Middle School, you're really dealing with mostly just 11-year-olds in this case, maybe, is 38%. And then again, Dyke Newell, Fisher Mitchell is both the 15, Phippsburg is the 20, and then Woolwich, I shouldn't say not middle school, but 5 to 11 for Woolwich is 22%. So again, Katie, helped a lot with the vaccination clinics and all of that. Again, there could be a case where these percentages are a little bit higher once we get, these things turned into our nursing staff, but that's what we have at this point right now. Katie, I don't know if you want to add more on that piece.
I just wanted to add that we do have a request in with Midcoast that as soon as they're able to come to a booster clinic here for any of those age groups that we would love to host again. And so they right now aren't doing it, but know that they should reach out when they're ready. So I know a couple of families and staff members have asked about that. And so as soon as they'll let us, we'll be doing that again. Okay. In terms of SOP or the standard operating procedure updates, I'm sure most of you saw the 2 letters that Patrick sent out in the beginning of January. And so just to quickly reiterate that, as you all know, the isolation for someone who does have COVID was 10 days and now it's 5. And so all of our nurses are going by that. The only time it moves from 5 to 6 through 10 is if someone's symptoms they're not totally recovered. So they basically either have to have no symptoms or be improving to the point where they hardly have any symptoms. And so on day 5 or day 4, they check in with the nurse, and that's how they choose their return date, essentially. And because of our universal masking that we have both for our sports and in our buildings, that also meant with this newest update that we're not doing contact tracing anymore, which, you know, in the letter that was sent out, we gave multiple reasons for why this makes sense. I know it makes some people nervous because it feels like we're doing less, but the way the CDC and the DOE explained it to us is essentially we need to all consider ourselves close contacts at all times. As Patrick just went over the numbers, when you have that many cases in a building and this new variant is so contagious, you actually would be considered a close contact and possibly have already gotten it before you would have had a test back, for instance. And so that's why they moved mostly to do that. We also are calculating our outbreaks differently. As you know, it used to be the 3 cases within a certain amount of time, and now it's 15% of both the staff and student population for any illness. And so our secretaries are tracking that and sending the information to the DOE and the CDC daily when we go above that number. And then Patrick already went over how we've taken away the letters. The second thing I wanted to mention is that, you know, we have a lot of people in pool testing. I know it's come up multiple times since we started for various reasons. I think one of the things that's most helpful right now, because things are spreading so quickly, is getting the information back. I know I talked to a family today where 3 of them had COVID and had no idea, and it was because of pool testing. And you can actually see it. The numbers in pooled testing, even though not everybody participates, are increasing at the same rate that our cases are increasing, which makes a lot of sense. In a difficult week earlier this fall, we might have 3 pools in a week at one school come back positive. Just for an example, in the last week, I just picked our 3 biggest schools. BMS had 7 positive pools last week. Woolwich had 6 and Morse had 11. And that was on a week where our numbers had actually gone down. And so while it's not a perfect system, it's definitely helping identify illness and making sure that, especially because it's a shorter amount of time people are home, that we're getting people home faster and then back to school faster, which is great. And then the last thing I wanted to review before we have Nate speak about athletics is that things are going really well with our medical assistants. I wanted to just highlight some of the things they're being asked to do. I know we initially had them working because the nurses were so overwhelmed with the contact tracing. And so you might be wondering, why are they still needed? And I can assure you that we have them very, very busy. And when I was just going over sort of the list of what they're asked to do, is anything from, even though we're not contact tracing, you can imagine how many phone calls and follow-ups the nurses have throughout the day for those who are sick, figuring out when they can come back. Are they okay to come back? Are they able to play sports? Who else in their family has it? And tracking all these things. So while a nurse might be on the phone, the medical assistant's actually helping students who are coming into the office who need services, either for first aid assistance or anything that's essentially going on. Perhaps they have symptoms. They've all been trained in doing the rapid test. They know how to just transcribe all the immunization cards into the system. So they're helping hopefully get, often the nurses will have piles of things to file and input, but that's not necessarily first on their plate. So we just read the numbers for vaccinations. I wouldn't be surprised for the littler students if those are actually higher, because we haven't had time to input all that information into the database yet. They're helping with vision and hearing screenings, daily health logs, contacting families, entering for every rapid tests we do that's positive, we have to enter all the information into a database, as well as when we find someone who's positive, providing medication, and so on and so forth. I could go on, but I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware that they remain very busy and very much needed. So the nurses couldn't be happier that you've given them the support. So thank you. Do we want to have Nate go? Nate, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Hey, good evening, everybody. Just want to give a brief update on athletics and how it's been going so far since we last spoke about a month or so ago. It's certainly been a challenging winter by all means. Most, if not all, of our teams have been impacted by COVID at some point. Had to do my fair share of rescheduling games and contests and practices. So, but with that being said, things seem to be smoothing out somewhat. Some of our games, actually at all of our games, all of our contests that we host at Morse, masking is required at all times, as you know. That also goes for any away event at Bowdoin or USM or UMaine, where indoor track teams or ice hockey teams might be competing. For the most part, that's been going pretty well. We've had maybe 2 to 3 people on average come to Morse without a mask or having forgot a mask. We've been keeping them at the admissions table. So the person who's doing admissions can just hand those out pretty easily. There hasn't been any kind of issue with that. No pushback from the public. As far as in game itself, I've had to give out maybe 1 or 2 reminders per game to people to either pull their mask up or to actually put their mask back on. Hasn't been any kind of pushback or issue around that after the reminder. So I'd say that's going pretty well as well. I also have continued conversations with officials regarding our masking policy. All of our schools in our conference have gone back to universal masking while playing athletics. So all officials really are on the same page no matter what school they go to, but I still continue to have that conversation with our officials prior to the contest, just to reaffirm what our policy is at Morse and just to remind the players to properly mask at all times. And as Jonah had said earlier, we have implemented a voucher system for our rivalry games, including Brunswick and Mount Ararat. We did implement that system. Our first game, I think it was the Mount Ararat girls came to us over Christmas vacation. So we implemented it then. And again, we're going to do that again tomorrow night. The boys play Mount Ararat at home. So I'm glad that we had it for the first game. It was kind of a nice way to do a trial run on it to see how it worked. There weren't any issues. We had plenty of vouchers for everybody. We were well under capacity. I think with that system in place certainly helped. So that's where we're at currently with our safety protocols. And I'm certainly happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Nate. Does anyone have any questions for Nate or Patrick or Katie? Go ahead, Jen.
Hi, Nate. Thanks. 2 questions. One, I think Dr. Hannah last time mentioned that there might be some better masks for sports players during sports. And I was just wondering if you would have been able to find any new supply for folks, or if we were able to identify. I just want to provide kids whatever they need, best needed to help them when they're competing. And also just a quick question about capacity, especially during the Mount Ararat games. Are you talking about capacity of our facilities in terms of just a general person, legal fire kind of issue? Or are you talking about the capacity because it's reduced because of COVID requirements?
Sure. Good questions, Jen. So to answer your masking question first, I did order those quite a while ago. And I think we've run into the same supply shipping problem that we seem to have no matter what we're ordering for athletic gear right now. So hopefully those are in soon. I guess the good news is we do have the majority of our games still to play where we've had to do a lot of rescheduling. So I'm hoping that those are in this week at some point. I've been following up with the vendor on that, and that seems to be the case. So So yes, they've been ordered, and hopefully they'll be in very, very soon. And as far as the capacity limit, yeah, that's in terms of what our gym can hold. It's right around 650, 670, something like that. So we're just trying to certainly not exceed that, which we haven't really come close to yet. But the voucher system has allowed us to spread those people out a little bit, offering quite a few less vouchers than what our capacity is. Just gives people an opportunity to spread out rather than packing the gymnasium with these rivalry games coming to town.
This might, not be important until down the line, but I know depending on how our teams do down the stretch, they might have an opportunity to host a playoff game. So do you think the voucher system will stay in place then?
It very well could. That's a great question, Jonah. Yeah, it very well could. I think might depend on who we play, but certainly, we'll look at that going forward.
Great. Any other questions for Nate? Or yeah, Lorna, go ahead.
Hi, Nate. I just wanted to make sure I heard you correctly. Did you say that at this point, all the other teams in our league have all gone back to universal masking? So there's not that gray matter with who is and who isn't?
That's correct.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Thank you very much, Nate. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Katie. Thanks, Patrick. So now we are, so that's that one. Now we're doing the second reading. We're on to our policies. 12.1B, second reading of board CBI, evaluation of the superintendent. This is an action item. And I gotta get that. Can I hear, is there a motion or? Jamie?
I was just going to move to accept them as written.
Do you want to take them together? We have two. Are you guys okay taking them together, both action items? Sure. So that's the second one being, that's 12.1C, second reading of the policy IHBAC, child fine policy. That's also an action item. So you guys are okay taking them both together? So go ahead, Jamie. Okay, Jamie was. All right, so Bill did it, and you want to second that? Okay, so Bill, yeah, that's fine. All right, so there's a motion. Any other discussion? Jennifer?
I think that we've talked a little bit about this in the policy committee, but, and I probably have said this in the past, but before the teachers would weigh in on the superintendent, they would give some feedback at some point. I don't know if it was what part of the evaluation process it was, but they were asked to give their input on both building administrators and the superintendent, just because they're really the people who they work with, that they have feedback to, that they do that. And I think we've added it into the duties part of the evaluation, or duties part of the superintendent's role, to be the leadership to specifically to building administrators. And I'm really happy that it looks like we're kind of tightening up this process by a lot. And I think that it's really good for us because we've needed some help with this process in the past. And I'm really excited about having a format and timelines and steps for it. I think we're going to get a lot better at it. But is there any place in this process to formalize requesting teacher input for this process? Or do we not have to formalize it? Is that just part of our information gathering? I'm happy either way.
I mean, I think it could be part of the information gathering on some level, but I don't think it's something that you would necessarily formalize because it's not something you would directly have to have in order to evaluate the superintendent because it's a couple levels. I mean, I wouldn't be comfortable formalizing it at this point. I think if you are getting some input because people are on different committees, work directly with them that way, or however as we formalize that process, that's fine, but I wouldn't see formalizing it in this one. I think this is in pretty good shape.
Okay. I would just ask that we remember that when we're doing our information gathering, because I've always said that when I was in that position, I thought it was really important and very respectful as a teaching staff to be asked, what do we feel? Because even though it's not a direct report, I feel like we're wonderful in our system where teachers do have a very close contact with all administrators. I don't feel like there's a hierarchy where a classroom teacher can't talk to our superintendent or have a communication. I know they do, their first report is their building administrators, but I would hope, and whatever we do, I would really like to hear the teachers' voices, both in this process of the policy that we're looking at now, and also, as I asked before, when the building administrators get evaluated. I really would like to hear teacher input on both of those levels, just to have their voice be heard by us. And I think it's an important process. So not formalized is fine, but we'll just keep that in mind as we go approach this. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other discussion regarding these two policies before we take action? Okay, all in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. These have been approved. Thank you very much. And we can move on to new business, 13.1 personnel items. That's you, Patrick.
Yeah, retirements. I'd like to thank these people for their years of service. First, Carol Pinkham, who's an ed tech at Bath Middle School for 36 years of service to the district. Wow. Rick McGuire, math teacher at Bath Middle School for 24 years of service. We have Bob Jordan, who used to be a longtime history teacher here at the high school and then moved into a tech integrator role, and like to thank him for 21 years of service. And lastly, Vince Chateau, social studies teacher at Bath Middle School for 35 years of service.
He was here for. Wow, great. Thank you. 13.2, review board committee assignments. And you gave us a chart.
Yeah, I mean, just tonight, just a question. You don't have to answer it tonight. You can get back to Vita, but just you see the policy, the board committee is up on the top, and who's on there now, and then whether anybody wants to move off a committee and move to a different one. And if, Megan, you can let us know when you get a chance which one you might want to serve on. And then down at the bottom is just a few of our ad hoc committees. Some of them don't meet that often, meet as needed. But if there's any interest by anybody picking up one of those, just let us know.
Great, thank you. Any questions at the moment on that from anyone? No? Okay. All right, thanks, Patrick. All right, 14.0, next meeting dates will be here, February 28th. We're moving through winter fast here, aren't we? February 28th at 6 o'clock. And now we're going to need to move into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056C to discuss disposition of property, so we can let our students go, right? Yeah. So thank you both. And then, yeah, we'll do that in a minute after, once Damien's ready, we'll move into executive session. And yeah, that's right, Katie goes. Okay, we back on? All right. So I need a motion to move out of executive session. Bill, I need a second. Jamie, all in favor? And now that we are out of executive session, I need a motion to adjourn. Bill? Okay, and Jamie, second, all in favor? All right, I thank you all for your service and being here tonight. Have a good night, everybody. We are adjourned.